church located in basically the same place with respect to the road. Okay, now the difference is, Roger, the road at that time went down below where 92 is now. It was not coincident with 92. Okay, so the road was down the valley, because if you go down there a little bit further, thank you Jimmy Satterfield for telling me that, there is a spring right down there. You can still go to the spring, and the church was set on the promontory overlooking the spring and the road. Okay, so it was basically out along the hill there and was moved back in and around 1939 when something was built around here that holds back water. Yes, as the Dutch say, the waterholderbakker, okay, or as we say, the dam, okay, without an N. Right. Okay, don't accuse me of cussing. So at any rate, that's where we think things had been going on. We think that maybe the first group of people that met maybe had been in the spring, but the founding of the church was coincidental with the founding of a new association. And the new association was called the Nolichucky. The Nolichucky Association. I got to tell you about that one. Okay, that one is funky. All right. The Nolichucky Association, so get a load of this. Duke Kimbrough's pastoring 4 churches at that time. The other 3 churches remained in the Tennessee Association. Mill Springs New Church was founded coincidentally with the Nolichucky Association. Now, what's up with that? Well, Mill Springs was, number one, Amanda, the only church in the Nolichucky that was in what's now Jefferson County. Okay? The lead church, where they had the first meeting in November of 1828, was a church called Bent Creek. Okay? And that's now in Hamlin County, and it's now known as First Baptist of Whitesburg, Tennessee. Okay? There was another church that was a little bit older, okay, but they also joined the Nolichucky in November of 1828, along with Mill Springs and a number of others, and the name of that church was Bethel South. Bethel South. Today, you know that church as First Baptist of Morristown, where that piano came from. So those were some of the churches. There were maybe 2 other churches that were in Cocke County. Actually, more than that. There were several churches in Cocke County, but Mill Springs was the only current Jefferson County church that joined the Nolichucky.
Leadville is name.
What's that?
Leadville and White Pine is.
Yes, yes. And also Lower French Broad and the others also joined later. And I'll tell you why I think. Okay? Now, this Nolichucky Association was amazing. Okay? Because you know what they did? They didn't just get a group of churches together and say, let's have a Nolichucky Association, but they also wrote their own confession of faith. Okay? Now, it wasn't super different. It wasn't super different from the Philadelphia Confession, but it did include a couple of interesting things, okay? The divine inspiration of the Old and New Testaments, okay? No big deal there. The permanent salvation of man through belief in Jesus Christ, kind of makes sense, okay? The concept of original sin, okay, that makes sense. And a note there, a lot of the Baptist churches in that time period were very Calvinistic. Okay, so the what is it? The tulip, let's see, the preservation of the saints, okay, is the fifth one. And so that was one of the tenets in there, and then original sin. And so that matches up, very closely. Now here, Randy, is where it's very interesting. Baptism by immersion. Now that's not that interesting. Okay, that's the whole deal with Baptists, right? Okay. Oh, but here's one that kind of gives you reason why maybe the other churches didn't join. The equality of men before God. What's that talking about? Maybe the color of their skin? Yeah. Exactly. Now, put that together with this thing, Miss Ballinger. When Mill Springs was founded in 1828, it had 26 original members. Okay? And one of them was named Thomas Neal of color. So one of the original members of Mill Springs was likely, let's say, African American. Okay? All right? And that was one, that held true. Now, I haven't gotten there, Ann. Like I said, I won't even hardly get to 1860. But Mill Springs, as you know, was the only church to remain open in Jefferson County all the way through the Civil War. Okay? It was also a church that was known for having manumitionists. Okay? And that is people that believed in the freeing of slaves. Okay? Much like a lot of East Tennessee in general. Okay? So that was kind of interesting that had happened, and then it kind of makes sense that the other churches in Jefferson County, even though they had the same Duke Kimbrough pastoring them, they didn't join the Nolichucky because the other associations didn't have anything in their confession of faith about that. And they let it go, and that's what happened, with like the Philadelphia group, okay? And that's why you had the Southern Baptist Convention being founded in 1845, okay? But this is back before that. Now, Duke Kimbrough was also famous for this, okay? Rand Energy, first man, he was the first in 1833, representing Mill Springs at an associational meeting to make an official pitch for an academy whereby young Baptist males might receive training in the ministry. Wow. This idea, shortly thereafter, evolved into something called Mossy Creek Baptist Seminary. Have any of y'all ever heard of that? Peggy worked there. Now it's known as Carson Newman. Okay? And so you can see Mill Springs was not only manumissionist oriented, but they were confessional oriented, they were associationally oriented, and they were educationally oriented. Because see, remember, go back when I said all these denominations are making a push to evangelize and disciple. They said, well, if we're going to do this, we need trained pastors. The Presbyterians, they've got Maryville. The Campbellites, they've got Milligan. The Methodists, they've got Emory and Henry. We need one here, and that's how Carson Newman got started. It was a joint effort among East Tennessee Baptists. Now, one other thing I will leave with you here, actually two other things, sorry. The second one is that one of the succeeding pastors to Elder Duke Kimbrough was a guy named C.C. Tipton. Okay? C.C. Tipton was the first treasurer at Carson Newman, or Mossy Creek back then. Okay? And the other thing was the Nolichucky Association had one other interesting thing. They came up with their own rules of order. Okay? Robert's rules of order were not into being at that time. Okay? And so people sort of came up with their own how meetings should be done. And this Nolichucky group, when they started, they wrote their own rules of order as well. So it was a very interesting thing. Now, the next time, Lord willing, okay, we'll try to get through the Civil War and into the 1800s, okay, the later 1800s. But for now, what? A quiz.